previously, FighterWizard and I had a conversation about spirituality and religion. And specifically, we want to talk about how Lucas or Miss Kennedy is plagiarizing the Immaculate Conception. Now, right off the bat, I want to say we're all fans of the ghost penis story. I mean, the Bible was one of the best sellers ever. Hey, what's going on? This is Rare Lance and
FighterWizard.
You may be asking yourself, why is Rare Lance wearing such a cool hat? FighterWizard, would you like to tell him why you were jealous today?
Oh, no. Please explain to everyone why you're wearing such a cool hat.
Well, I happened to go to Disneyland, go to Galaxy's Edge, and got the Black Spire Outpost.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. On
Straw
Batu.
hat. I got numerous compliments on this hat while walking around Disneyland.
Did you get compliments from people that worked at Disneyland or from people that paid to get in? It's very different.
Paid to get in.
I'm impressed.
Yeah. Had a couple people stop me. Why don't you even take a picture with me? They thought I was doing cosplay because I went on May the 3rd, but, you know.
That's fair. You should have gone on May the 4th. I'll bet that would have been insane. I wish I was there. No, I don't. I wish I could have seen it.
I had a buddy who went on May the 4th, and he said it was awesome, but super packed, but tons of people doing cosplay to the point where you were like, do you work here? Or are you one of the cast members? Or
yeah, usually Disneyland kind of frowns on that because it does take away from their own cast members who work. Yeah. So they try to limit that. Star Wars, I think, gets, I don't know about now, but certainly at first, Star Wars Land, Batu, whatever you want to call it, the Black Spire Outpost, had a lot of that, may still have a lot of that, people dressing very close to an actual character. Yeah. Kylo Ren without the robe. There's a guy who looks like Kylo or Adam Driver and wears Kylo Ren's
really?
uniform from The Last Jedi. You're like, bro.
There's one guy there. What's the new Star Wars video game?
Jedi Survivor,
dressed up as in those clothes and then had the little robot droid on his shoulder.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool. Yeah. That was awesome. So everybody, let me do some quick housekeeping and then we'll get into explaining why I'm wearing this ridiculous hat. Please like, share, subscribe. Why don't you go ahead, join us on our Instagram. We keep up to date a little bit better with that one. Got some fantastic memes. We got some other insights. So again, we use whatever support you can give us. Now, today, FighterWizard and previously FighterWizard and I had a conversation about spirituality and religion. And specifically, we want to talk about how Lucas or Miss Kennedy is plagiarizing the Immaculate Conception. Now, right off the bat, I want to say we're all fans of the ghost penis story. I mean, the Bible was one of the best sellers ever. The movie Ghost with Demi Moore and Patrick Swayze, phenomenon of the 80s, right? So I could see how Star Wars wanted to get in on this train. You guys might be wondering, like, what the hell am I talking about? Well, I would like to show you a very plausible storyline for the next Star Wars movie. First off, let me take off this damn hat because it's ridiculous. That's better. And FighterWizard, would you like to please help us explain how Disney is going with the Immaculate Conception story or plagiarizing the Immaculate Conception story?
No, I do not. This was something that you brought to my attention and I felt was far-fetched even for Disney's recent bent with Star Wars. And I looked it up and I found what I considered to be a more definitive source and answer to this question. And I won't take away your thunder by saying what it is. I would say that I disagree with your premise.
Really? Okay. Well, let me take it the next step. For
Please.
Everybody looking at the screen, there was somebody, I guess, tweeted Instagram that Star Wars girl. No, it's a blue check. So Twitter, and it said Disney biggest reveal at Star Wars Celebration: Force Ghost Kylo Ren knocked up Rey. It's a picture of Rey being pregnant on. That's not Tatooine.
That is Tatooine.
It is at Tatooine. So here is why I think it kind of is plausible. I think with the direction that Miss Kennedy has taken the Star Wars franchise, this is a fantastic illustration of why women don't need men anymore, because now they can procreate through the Force, no longer needing men. It's the next step of the Star Wars franchise.
These are all your opinions. These are none of my opinions.
Okay, so tell us what's actually going on.
If that is indeed a screenshot and it looks like a picture of a screen, so it's pretty tough to tell. That, I guess, is a tease for an upcoming movie, more of which will be revealed at D23, which will specifically deal with the movies in September, and that'll be overseen by Bob Iger. Anyway, one of the new movies that is slated is a sequel to the sequel trilogy, and it tells the story of a refounding of the Jedi Order, ostensibly, is for what we know so far, by the Jedi Master Rey SkyWalker, 15 years after the events of the Rise of Skywalker.
How did she become a Jedi Master if no one was there to train her?
Well, technically, Luke never had anyone to train him. Now, according to canon, and he was able to achieve. Granted, he's Luke Skywalker. He is the greatest Jedi of the entire canon and legend series. So maybe that. I do not know how Rey would have become a Jedi Master. Maybe she would have consulted the sacred text that got burned on Octo. I'm not sure. No. She brought them with her. Perhaps, I have no idea. Maybe she found some repository of Jedi lore. I don't know.
Or just poor writing.
This could, yeah. To be honest with you, man, it's par for the course. If they had a Technicolor slow biker gang in the Book of Boba Fett, and that was a greenlit idea, sure, yeah. There's a lot that's open.
Yeah. Okay. So so you're going to just say this is debunked, correct?
I would say that the ghost penis. I would not say that the ghost penis necessarily is debunked, but more the premise that Rey is pregnant with Kylo Ren's Yeah, I don't think Rey's pregnant. And if she is pregnant, I don't think Kylo Ren is the father.
Okay, so let's get into enough of me joking around. Let's get into some actual rumors and what you think might be coming for the Star Wars franchise.
Sure, yeah. So I looked a little bit into it, and there's actually quite a bit. So for those that don't know, Celebration, which is the annual celebration, it's a very large conference of Star Wars fandom and all things Star Wars pop culture. A lot of the stars of the movies and shows, or directors or creators of those shows, come to that and give forums. This year, Hayden Christensen was there and did a one-on-one interview. He famous, well, I don't know about famously outside of Star Wars circles, but famously he was teared up by the fan reception he had, which was cool to see. And there's just an absolute shit ton of Star Wars lore, Star Wars fans, Star Wars the Flamethrower, etc., including a lot of merchandise and collectibles.
Okay.
And there is where a lot of the content creators will typically showcase the upcoming slate or spate of shows that will come up. And then there's another conference, less conference, more showcase, not conference, convention, called D23, which is Disney's specific. Granted, they own Star Wars, but Disney specifically revealing some of their content, and I think that happens later this year in September. And Bob Iger oversees that one.
Now, when I was going through some of the rumors online, I saw a list of all the slated projects.
There's a ton.
Do you know them offhand? Are you excited for any of them in particular?
Yeah, 100%. Offhand, there's a few that I know, and I took notes because the more I followed up on what the different shows or different content was that was coming out, there's a lot.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you follow. It's been a channel forever. It's Screen Junkies, but they have an honest trailers show that they put
Sure.
out every Tuesday. Okay, so he just did the Mandalorian season 3, and Mandalorian season 3 had mixed reception. I liked it, but I can see some of the criticism. And one of the last lines in that show, or this episode of that show, was, and they forget what made Star Wars kind of special in the first place by going the fuck away for a little while. And it's not a bad, in my opinion, it's not a bad criticism, because at some point
Interesting.
there seems to be a little Star Wars was a phenomenon because you as much as you liked it, you only got it every 3 years.
Yeah.
Now I greedily and happily consume most of the Star Wars content that's out there, especially some of the more the stuff that's released on Disney. But there is something to be said for overindulgence. Anyway, to answer your question, yes, there are some things I'm excited about. There are some people and content creators, show creators that I'm excited will helm more projects. There are some producers and creators of content that I'm happy will not helm some projects, and then there are the upcoming movies. So kind of go hot on the heels of Mando. So the Mandalorian season 3 that was overseen by Kathleen Kennedy, and she has also overseen Andor and Book of Boba Fett and The Last Jedi. Her leadership in these projects has been questioned slightly because a lot of the writing really wasn't good on a lot of these. I think Andor was we both gushed about Andor. We both really liked it. Book of Boba Fett was fun but very popcorny,
Yeah.
and some of it was just kind of cheesy. It was just really cheesy.
Yeah.
And we can go into that, but anyway. So Din Djarin and his son Din Grogu, now that Grogu has been adopted formally by Din Djarin, are hanging out at their new house, their new land, granted to them by Greef Karga on the planet of Navarro. Greef Karga, also known as Creed, or the Carl Weathers, the actor's name, or the guy who gets his arm ripped off in Predator. Anyway.
Yep.
And the director intended that to be a reset to the series. Originally, the series was conceived of as, and very much played out as, a Western. He is a bounty hunter. He's this lone warrior who finds and fosters a child to get, with a mission. And the first 2 seasons are exactly that. He gets him home. Then you have season 2.5 and Book of Boba Fett, where you kind of see a little bit more of the story of Mando. And then season 3, he kind of reunites with his tribe. But it was all over the place. The criticism is Mando season 4, they're going to take back and sort of reset it and take it back to its roots, or at least that's the goal. Kathleen Kennedy is not attached to this project, and this is going to occur in either late 2024 or early 2025. The cool thing about this is that both Luke Skywalker, the actor who plays Luke Skywalker's body in the new in Mandalorian season 2, and Mark Hamill, who also played his body and his voice, and Darth Vader are both confirmed to be in the Mandalorian season 4. Granted, Darth Vader's dead by the time the Mandalorian rolls around, because it's 9 years. Starts 9 years after the Battle of Yavin, but still cool because it's rumored that Luke and Vader are going to sort of meet father to son, in the Force or through the Force, which is great, and we'll have fangirls like me just go crazy. There's also a show that is going to explore the Old Republic trilogy. For those of us that are a little bit older, you, me, we've definitely played Knights of the Old Republic. And this was back when canon and legends were practically the same thing, or it was the same thing. And Knights of the Old Republic, I believe, happens, 3,000 years before the Battle of Yavin? And
yeah, I don't remember.
A while ago. Enough of a while ago. This is going to, we think, explore the story of Darth Vitiate, maybe, or Darth Revan. Darth Revan and Darth Vitiate are related. Revan, the Jedi, when he's the Jedi, goes off and with his friend apprentice Alec at that time, and they seek further knowledge. They come upon a planet. They find Darth Vitiate. Darth Vitiate is sort of the Old Republic's Palpatine, some super, super powerful Sith Lord. Takes over an empire, etc. He doesn't take over the Republic, but he takes over his own sort of like little isolated empire portion of the galaxy. This figures also into Jedi Knight, a video game series in the 90s. Anyway, Revan learns how to be a Sith Lord from Vitiate. He gets turned to the dark side, and then he escapes with his new apprentice, Darth Malak, back and starts the war that occurs in Knights of the Old Republic, including the Mandalorian Wars. No, Revan finishes the Mandalorian Wars. Anyway, the reason that series will be cool, other than just exploring Darth Vitiate, is that Keanu motherfucking Reaves is attached to that project. And he's in talks to either play Darth Vitiate or, much cooler, be Darth Revan. And he is a very, like, there's a huge, like, fan swelling, or fan upswell. Groundswell is the word I'm looking for Keanu Reeves to be Darth Revan, because that would just be fucking dope. You're wrong. It would be dope.
I'm a fan. John Wick. I'm a huge fan. Matrix. Huge fan. I don't know if he has the range to play that dark of a character. I know he's had a couple other movies that aren't as popular. That will be interesting. Also, are these going to be movies or Disney Plus projects?
It's going to be a show. These are all shows.
So normally my gut reaction would be Disney is not going to have the stomach to take it where that show would need to be to make it that kind of
dark.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
However, after Kenobi and after some of the stuff in The Mandalorian and Andor, they're getting a bit gritty.
Yeah, we both enjoyed that aspect very much. I don't think, depending on who's leading the project, I don't think they're shying away from more adult topics. And even if you see something like Tales of the Jedi, which is a animated shorts, there's Tales of the Jedi 2, which is just recently out on Disney Plus. They explore. There's a lot of Ahsoka in there.
Right.
But they explore maybe some of the philosophical aspects, or Count Dooku before he's Count Dooku. Anyway, they're not afraid to look at an adult's take on the Star Wars world. Which is cool. Granted, they also kind of fumble. Again, Technicolor biker gang, but still.
I think, I'd be open to watching that. If you would have told me this 4 years ago, I would have been like, oh God, please don't do that. But I think of it like episode 3, Order 66. Yeah, they showed it, but it wasn't brutal enough. It wasn't brutal like the raising of the Jedi Temple in The Mandalorian, right? That was way more brutal than episode 3. So I think they can now show those really dark elements of starting a war and doing all the stuff that Malak did. And Revan for that part. So it's interesting.
I mean, they did show child murder somewhat explicitly in Kenobi, and they really hit adult themes of loss, of I has not closure's too weak of a word, maybe forgiveness and acceptance. But anyway, it was a very adult series. There was So I can watch the scene where Hayden Christensen, or where Obi-Wan Kenobi and Darth Vader speak, or Anakin speaks to Vader. I've watched that countless times. I will even turn that scene on alone, and my daughter's like, Dad. You don't get it. There's so much in this 6 minutes. Look at this self-loathing. Anyway, so that's going to be a huge thing. But the next, so let me look at my notes. So there's Mando season 4, that's 24 or 25. There's the Old Republic trilogy with either Vitiate or Revan, or both, just depending on who Keanu Reeves plays. There is the next show, which is Ahsoka, and that comes out August this year, starring Rosario Dawson.
We will be doing a show on that one before that drops, for sure.
I've got season tickets to that one, no matter what. Oh, and the cool thing about the cool thing about Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni, two of the major creators, of Mandalorian,
Sure.
is that they are excellent at their craft, but fans. And I don't know, and they were fans first before they became filmmakers.
Right.
And they understand the fandom. They're not afraid to address it, but not in like ham-fisted cheesy ways, like Memba Him moments.
Yeah.
And they also listen to the fans. Rosario Dawson is Ahsoka Tano because everyone thought Ahsoka Tano should be played by thought Rosario Dawson would be great, and they made a huge fan push for it, so they auditioned her for the part. But you don't like her. You don't like her as Ahsoka?
From the animated show, she seemed lighter than Rosario Dawson could ever portray to me. Right. But now this might be an older, all her friends died. She's been on the run. So maybe that's what they're going for. But when I compare the two, I'm not a fan with the pick. I'm not saying she did a horrible job, but
I can see that. I can see your criticism. I like her because I take Ahsoka Tano to be this maybe not jaded, not weary, but certainly wiser, older Togrit woman.
Yeah, I don't get that from the character portrayed. I get there is in my opinion, there is a difference between a woman who's lived a hard life, experienced loss, experienced failures, experienced just certain aspects of life that will jade her a certain way. Then there's women who's just dated a lot of jerks who have made their lives miserable and it jade them a different way.
Okay.
My impression of Rosario Dawson is the jading of the second kind. I agree, jaded, wiser. I'm just not feeling it the other way. And that's completely subjective. That's, from my opinion. She seems like when she's dealing with Mando and the lack of trust and killing that guy in the fort, she was treating him like an ex-boyfriend. Not as opposed to, I'm a hitman now because this is all I have left and I've lost all my friends and I'm trying to survive. It's just my personal preference. I'm sure I'm wrong.
Okay, so I'm gonna go back and watch this portion. I'm gonna watch Ahsoka Tano's 2 episodes, maybe 1 episode in The Mandalorian season 2, and try to view it through this lens because I did not pick up on that. The wizened, kind of world-wise Jedi that I was thinking of was in a Book of Boba Fett or Mando season 2.5, where she's at the being built Jedi rebuilt Jedi temple with Luke, kind of explaining who Grogu is or what he's doing.
Sure.
Anyway, so the previews are out of that. They were already shown. The lightsaber combat, the fights are supposed to be very well choreographed, and that's a big thing. So that's the next one. Andor 2 comes out in the summer or fall of next year, so a year from now, essentially. So the second season of Andor takes place about 4 years after, or supposed to take place 4 years after the first season of Andor, which was fucking depressing. So that'll be nice to be depressed again since you already know what happens to him anyway.
By the way, in the last meeting I had with IEG, and I have to derail the show for a little bit.
Please.
We had a 5-minute conversation about Andor that I will always regret, at least just not recording to launch the audio of it. I'm going to try to recreate it somehow for everybody to listen. But before Andor season 2 comes out, I'm forcing IEG to do an episode with me about recapping the original Andor. It's a fantastic 5 minutes. We completely disagree. He can't stand the show Andor, and it's just for the best reason. So yeah, I'm not going to ruin it. I'm not going to ruin it because he's jaded.
It was so good.
You cannot convince him otherwise. It's a deal breaker for him.
The only misstep was okay. So there were two missteps. One, it took 4 episodes really
No,
to like
you're
really
going
catch a
too
scene.
deep. You're going too deep. No,
And two,
this
his
is
name was Clem for 3 episodes.
was great. No, IEG dislikes Andor for the most petty reason ever, and it is beautiful.
Well, now I really want to know. Okay, so that's let's see, Andor 2. Kind of the zig to all of those zags is they're going to release a Sith themed show called Acolyte, which is the Star Wars universe, but as seen from a Sith apprentice. So that'll be
That's
fun.
awesome.
There's going to be a show called Skeleton Crew. I have no idea what that's about. That's supposed to be released in winter of this year, and it stars Jude Law.
Oh wow, God, they're
Yeah.
getting big names. But I do have a quick question.
Yeah.
Because Mandalorian was basically reset to go back to a Western, I'm shocked that Disney didn't do an offshoot to Mandalorian of Mandalorians. Right? They could now have a complete different show of just what's going on with the rebuilding and getting attacked and all that other stuff.
Who's
And then
to say that they won't?
they got to, right? That's the perfect offshoot.
I'm still surprised that they smoked. Granted, it was all over the place. I'm so surprised that they smoked Moff Gideon so quickly. I thought they could milk that for maybe a little bit more, but whatever.
They could have. The minute they showed clones, so cloning people to bring back bad guys is like just okay, not just under, but it's under time travel. Like those two story arcs piss me off every time because it's just your instant. Oh, that character did really well. We want to rehash it in a different way and bring them back. So the minute I saw clones, I was like, this shit needs to stop real quick. So when they killed them off real quickly, I was like, okay, this better be the last time. You get one redo. Okay, so I'm happy. I'm happy it was like that.
Okay, yeah, I like that point. I like that. That was, yeah. It's usually like a, but wait, there's more. It was all a dream. That level of writing.
I mean, they did that in episode 9, right? Pissed me off. Fuck. I hate when they do clones because you get to reset everything.
The sequel trilogy is the longer it's out and the more I've watched it, and I've done my part for Star Wars by watching it a lot, I like it less and less. Less as a demonstration of actors' skill, because I think they had a really talented cast, and more just fucking it's bad writing. Rise of Skywalker is an astounding example of poor story writing or storycraft. Yeah. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's actually impressive because you got to think, was this a poor job editing? Because I've seen great movies that were edited poorly and it destroyed the movie. Or did they intentionally do this? Which is just as impressive. Like,
I think it's intentional. When you get the weird Sith dagger from the assassin by falling into a random pit, and the dagger also happens to be the silhouette of the Death Star on one of the moons in the Endor system.
My favorite scene where I was like, oh, come on. And I know it wasn't episode 9, but where Luke is talking to Rey and he's like, you saw the dark side and you didn't even flinch. It was like, oh, okay, go. There's no struggle. Really? Isn't that the whole point to all of the temptation of the dark side? And she's just like, I could walk through it. I'm fine. I don't need it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, that sequel trilogy was famously, I wouldn't say botched, but I'll say botched. I think it was botched, but that's just my opinion.
I think it was doomed.
It was unevenly executed.
Yeah.
I mean,
and you know the worst part to me is it was doomed from the top down.
Yeah, that's
good. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It wasn't actors. It wasn't, maybe the writer. It was just top down doomed. And they never had a shot.
No, the writers, I'm sure the writers are good writers, but you're right. It was top down. It's like, no, this has to be rewritten. She has to be this. Yeah. Like, oh, okay. Now she's a Palpatine. The story when it originally was crafted, she was not Palpatine's granddaughter. That was
an
decided.
Edit?
Yeah, that was decided like during filming. Like, oh, you're a Palpatine. Like, oh, that's the way the story makes sense. Like, really? All right.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
anyway, okay.
Before we go too long, yeah. All right. What else do we have on slate?
We can edit all that shit out.
No.
Let's see. There's a show that's like far in the future, not like in the Star Wars universe, but like in the physical universe that we live in. It's called Ghost Track 17. No
Ghost
idea.
Penis what?
Yes, it's Ghost Penis 17. There's 16 more Ghost Penis episodes to get through before we get to Ghost Penis 17. It's like COVID-19. There have been 18 others.
So we now know Ray body count. Got it.
Yes. She slept with 17 people. 17 ghost penises. I don't know how many real people. The nice part about ghost penises is you can have them all at once.
Oh, God.
Yeah. A lot of people don't know that, but...
I think that was a deleted scene from Ghostbusters, but sure, go ahead.
No. Fucking okay. So when you're a kid and you're watching the original Ghostbusters, I didn't know what happens to Ray's stance when he's in bed and the ghost starts unzipping his pants. I'm like, oh, I don't know, that he wears underwear too, just like me. Now when I see it, I'm like, bro, you just had sex with a dead thing.
Let's not ponder too much about that.
Yeah, it's like light spiritual necrophilia. Anyway, let's see, Ghost Track 17, which is probably just a placeholder name, and then the Bad Batch season 3. Oh, for Andor, it takes place 4 years after the first season, and it will dovetail supposedly into the events of Rogue One.
Oh,
which means
wow,
Andor
that makes
has
sense.
about like a week to live after it starts.
Yeah.
And then there's the Bad Batch season 3. Bad Batch season 3 that will end the Bad Batch season arc or story arc. And I haven't watched much Bad Batch. I saw Bad Batch 1. I haven't seen 2 or 3. I've heard that it's great. It's just at some point there's not enough time and too much TV when I have kids and a job.
Sure.
Let's see. Tales of the Jedi 2 is out now. The first Tales of the Jedi is really good. It's animated shorts, and Tales of the Jedi 2 just continues that. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's animated shorts about Jedi. Now, as far as movies, we talked a little bit about movies. There are 3 movie projects known. One is the sequel to the sequel trilogy starring Rey and the possible existence of a ghost penis. There is a movie that is suggested to be a culmination of the Mando and Ahsoka storylines. Oh, and the Boba Fett storylines, which might star Grand Admiral Thrawn, and we have Pelion, Captain Pelion, that was recently seen in Mandalorian season 3. Which, if you have Grand Admiral Thrawn and you have Pelion, you could conceivably get to Heir to the Empire, which is the Thrawn trilogy, which actually revitalized Star Wars in 1995, courtesy of the author Timothy Zahn.
I don't know anything about that. So it was clearly books.
Yeah, so Star Wars kind of just ran into like this nerds like light subculture following Return of the Jedi. And it just became that thing like, oh, those movies were great, and culture marches on. And, you collect action figures, but then they stopped making the toys, and it just kind of fell out of, public consciousness. In 1995, Timothy Zahn started writing I guess probably 94, but it came out in 95, the Thrawn trilogy, a trilogy of books that takes place, I think, 5 years after the events of Return of the Jedi, in which Grand Admiral Thrawn brings his fleet back. He was exploring the unknown regions of space. He brings his fleet back into the known galaxy and starts laying waste. He's a brilliant strategist. His second in command is Captain Pelion.
Interesting.
And he lays waste against the New Republic. Very good series, very well written. It really instilled a love of Star Wars, or sort of re-injected a love of Star Wars back into, that's redundant, into popular culture. And from that, you can pretty much draw a straight line to the release of Star Wars Episode 1 in 1999.
Interesting.
So anyway,
I've never heard of that. Yeah.
It's a really good book series. There are many, 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 many books on Star Wars. Highly recommended. Not just, I couldn't put it down when I was 14.
Sure.
14? Yeah, 14. anyway, so maybe that's Heir to the Empire. Maybe it's not. It has clones in it. I'm sorry. I apologize. But it's not a clone you've seen before. So that's okay. That's also the series that introduced Mara Jade, if you know who she is. And then there's another movie. I think this is by Dave Filoni. I'm not sure, or it's going to be headed by Dave Filoni. It's going to explore the genesis of the Jedi Order. Takes place. I don't know how many thousands of years before, but it's suggested to be about the prime Jedi, the very first Jedi, who discovers and uses the Force. So, yes, those are all the projects.
It sounds like they got the next decade planned for them.
Yeah, or knowing Disney like the next 5 years.
Yeah, you went. I mean, normally I'd be like, this is going to burn out, but I mean, Marvel is still going strong, right? Maybe not as strong. I just wonder if you look at total dollars. Sure, each movie's not making as much money, but they're coming out with so many. It's more, quantity at this point in time. But clearly they're still making their money.
Well, I think what, in my lowly opinion, so what made Marvel really like get some juice is that it was always, and I'm sure they're aware of this and they're doing this again, is it's always building towards Thanos. Even if you didn't know what the Infinity Gauntlet was, you knew it was going to be something cool, and all these stories were coalescing into this giant fucking fight. It was great. Right. And then after you don't have Thanos anymore, you're like, oh, well, what happens next? And it's kind of cool to explore Spider-Man and what happens post-blip, etc. But you still don't have that constant inexorable pull. Again, redundant. With Star Wars, that big pull was supposed to be the new sequel trilogy, but obviously that didn't work out so well. So now you have 30 different
I see what you're saying.
Plot lines which take place all over the timeline. Bad Batch is post Clone Wars, Ahsoka Tano is during the Clone Wars, after the Clone Wars, and now after the not the Civil War, the Galactic Civil War, and the same, and the sequel trilogy takes place 30 to 33 years, 30 to 32 years after Return of the Jedi, etc. So, what is the pull that's going to like lead everybody to, oh wow, this is great, all the stories have been going towards this?
You can't, especially when they're different timelines,
for sure,
decades and decades apart. You won't be able to. I just wonder if they're trying to bifurcate their fan base. In other words, like, I'll watch everything Mando now. I'm in.
That's a good point.
I'll watch everything Andor now. Movies,
it's going to take a lot.
I'm pretty sure I saw 7, 8, and 8. I've only seen parts of 9 because I couldn't. I think 8 I watched from the other room, type of a situation, right? So like the movies, no thank you. With the animated shows, I watch a couple of them, but not any of them. But the Disney Plus shows, I've been watching all of them. Kenobi, Mando, Andor. So I wonder if that's maybe their new strategy. As opposed to building something, now you got segregated fan bases. But I would agree, it does always help when you're leading everybody to the same end goal.
Yeah, there's no singular thread to which everything can cleave, or at least not that I can see. But again, with the new shows, or at least the new shows, the new content that's going to be released, there's going to be a heavier emphasis on legacy characters. And Kathleen Kennedy has decidedly less influence on a lot of the projects. But the leaning on the legacy characters is nice, because the sequel trilogies attempted to essentially just chop off and or kill a lot of the legacy characters. And
okay,
whether or not you lean on them for nostalgic purposes, they were well written. Everybody likes Han Solo. Everybody likes the lovable rogue. There's a reason it's a compelling character. It's not just because you had a good actor behind it, but maybe that helps.
Yeah. Well, all right. I think we are getting to our time limit. Do you have any final thoughts? Any thing we missed that we should talk about?
No, I'm sure I talked too much about it, but I'm sure I missed a lot of stuff anyway.
Not at all. Well, all right, everybody. Thank you for your time. And if you are willing to listen, we are willing to talk. Catch you later. Bye.